everybody, Bring It Up is on air. It's me, Chiara.
And me, Sarah. Welcome back to another episode.
So, the topic that we are going to face today is feminism for Muslim women and the challenges they are facing nowadays, in the past, and so on. So, Sarah, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, of course. So our guest for today is Weam. She's a friend of mine. We know each other from university. And hi, Weam. How are you? Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. So today with Weam, we're going to talk about Islamic feminism. So first of all, Weam, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us more about you.
Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Weam. I am Italian. I was born and raised in Italy, but I actually have Egyptian parents. So we can say that I have always lived, like in the middle between Italy and Egypt. I have both cultures. And as Sarah said, I studied at the University of Bergamo, so we met there in Italy, in the northern part. And after that, I continued my studies. I took my master's, and actually, I'm living in Cairo, in Egypt, and I'm very happy that you hosted me in your program, because it's a very hot topic, especially these days. So I hope I can give the clearest panoramic as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. So we decided to talk about this topic because, as always, with when it comes to choose like the topic of our podcast, Karen and I were like talking and chatting, and I was talking to her about my university years, and I was explaining to Karen that I studied Arabic in university, both language and culture. And I was explaining her how fascinating was Arabic culture and religion, also the Islam, for me, and how I loved the environment that I was studying in when I was in university, because I was surrounded by all of you. Like, most of my classmates were Muslims, and I loved it so much because I always felt like in a super open-minded environment and very welcoming environment. So I always felt at ease when it came to asking questions about Islam and Arabic culture and everything related to it. So we decided to talk about Islam, but in a more specific way, talking about women in Islam. So when we were talking about that, I always thought immediately about you, Weam, because I remembered all the conversation we had about women in Islam and the hijab and all the things related to the religion. So first of all, I think we can start with explaining a bit more what it means to be a woman in Islam.
First of all, I would say that being a woman in Islam it's like being a woman in like the Western culture. You're a woman. I mean, like this role, the body. It's something universal. Okay. I would say that what distinguishes Western women from I would say, I'm not talking really about Eastern, but in general, Islamic women, Muslim women. It's that the way, the style, their lifestyle, and we can say that the way they have to see the world. In the Western society, there are less limitations for women, for example, because the Western mindset is really different from the Islamic one. And it's according to like the mindset and like the keys you have to understand how a Western woman lives and a Muslim woman lives. And as for me personally, I have always lived in a very strange way, the way of being a Muslim woman, because I have always been stuck to my religion. But at the same time, I always tried not to be, like very that rigid, that extreme, that severe, and I always tried, like to convey a certain image to the Western world, in particular in Italy, where I was, like born and raised. And I would say that it wasn't that easy. But it wasn't that easy because of all, the mental, barriers that were set. So basically, I can say, oh, I'm a woman. I'm just like, like you, Sarah, like you, Chiara, like any other woman. But there was always something that, prevented me from being completely myself, because I was actually a Muslim woman. So I was always seen in a very different way, even though I see that we are basically the same.
Thank you, Weam, for your introduction. Meanwhile, you were speaking. I was thinking, also refer to what Sarah said at the beginning, what can be considered my first approach with Islamic culture. And in my case, it was narratives, a book written about stories concerning Muslim women. And I remember that during my adolescence, this was my favorite genre ever. And I was always going in libraries trying to find books on the topic, telling those stories. But now that I grew up, I realized that probably what I was missing at that time was I was trying to confront myself with such a different reality from the one I grew up in. But probably what I was missing were some kind of specific information referred to the culture itself, to the Islamic culture as it is. And personally, I couldn't make on my own this distinction because I grew up in a secular state, in a secular country that is Italy. So for me, religion is one thing, and like my life inside the society is another thing. And that's why I would like to ask you if you can give us some more detailed information about this, like the Islamic culture itself and the culture that is embraced by the country that lives by Islam.
Yeah, well, I would say that thanks for underlining this, because I have always seen, like cultures in general. So I'm not really speaking about a particular country. I'm saying in general. It could be Eastern, or it could be, like Western, but there's always a sort of red line between what culture is and what the religion says and states. And I would say that many people tend, like to mix them together, and this is comprehensible. I mean, like culture, it's made of many things. Like it's made of lifestyle, it's made of mindset, it's made of history, of music, art, literature, of many things that tend, like to influence religion, and sometimes religion influences these things as well. I would say that what is important to say about Islam in first is that the difference between, for example, Islam and other religions is that Islam it's like a sort of manual, gives us a very detailed manual about what a good Muslim should do and what should not do. Okay, so you see, for example, in other religions, I would say that all religions share a common point, which is like good living, doing good to other people, and trying to avoid like the evil, the bad. But Islam, gives you much more detail about what you should do, how you should live, what you should eat and what not, where you should go and not, how many times you do something, and this kind of things. It's much more detailed. It's like a life manual, and I believe that you do not find this in other religions. So I wanted, like to be specific in this point. because many people do not, for example, understand why the Muslim people, like live in a certain way. How do they get by living in that particular way? And I would say that talking about culture, for example, it comes to you that like when you are grown and you when you grow up in a particular society where they have a certain cultural standard, you just get used to it. And it happens that sometimes that particular society or culture like embraces Islam and its principles. So I would like to like to give you a simple example, just to be clear. So I grow up in Italy. I am not Muslim. I see everyone like drinking alcohol, and I see that it's something absolutely normal. Okay, of course, I'm not talking about exaggerating, but like drinking and sipping during maybe parties and events. I see this is something completely normal. I mean, like it's even part of the culture. Like wine was like worshipped from the very beginning. If I think about the Romans, the ancient Romans, I mean, like wine was something sacred to them. But when it comes to a Muslim person, it's not important, regardless of their gender. But if I talk about a man or a woman born and raised in another culture, I talk about Egypt, for example, where I have to say that there are many Christian people. Okay, these people are not used to it, because like the culture embraced the Islamic principle of not drinking alcohol. And I have to say that, for example, when you see Christians here too, of course they drink alcohol, but they do not do it so lightly. I mean, like they do sell here alcohol, but they do not drink it like boasting and showing off, like, because even if you see a Christian drinking, the rest of the society will look at this person in a very particular way, like saying, oh wait, you are doing something strange. Okay, you understand? And it's completely illegal, it's completely okay, it's fine with their religions, because like Christianity has never forbidden alcohol, so it's okay. So that's the point, like there's a fine mixture between the twos, and it's not always easy to detect where Islam starts and where culture starts, and where they both end, so I would say that it's extremely important, like to underline the fact that Islam has been embraced by certain societies, even those who are not entirely Muslim. Okay. And as for the Islamic culture in general, well, there are so many things that I could say. We could talk, like 100 years about Islamic culture, but in general, I would say that it's beautiful. And I'm not saying this because I'm personally a Muslim woman. I'm saying this because even seeing it from an external point of view, I see the beauty in it, in every, in every nuance of it. And I always try not to see what Islam forbids, for example. I always try to see what Islam encourages, what the Islamic culture teaches us, and what are the values that we should have, that we should have inside of us, that we should embody. And I think that like it's so wide, but well, basically I would say that this is it. Islam, it's not a religion. I would say it's a word, like a planet. And I believe that I wish many other people could be interested as you, Chiara, and you, Sarah, are in this matter, because like if people understood better, it would be completely different.
Thank you for your example, Weam.
Oh, you're welcome.
I absolutely agree with what you said about Islam not being just a religion, but being just like an entire planet.
Yeah.
Because when we were at university, I remember that studying Arabic language meant not only studying the grammar and everything related to the language itself, but also understanding that the Arabic language, it's like connected in a very deep way with Islam, with the religion.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but you just have to think about that. How many people embrace Islam nowadays? Many people. I mean, like it's not every day. You are not counting millions, but there are people even in America, in Italy, in Canada, in France, in every part of the world. You find people that sometimes like it happens. Oh, that man embraced Islam, and I have always heard about those people who, after embracing Islam, they try, like they make so many efforts to learn the Arabic language because they want to read the Holy Quran in Arabic. So you see, it was in connection with what you said, because they even consider, Muslim people consider Arabic as the saint language, the holy language, because it's the language of our book. So it's much more than learning grammar and like rules and the alphabet. Like there's a strong connection between the Islamic religion and its language.
Yeah, and I remember that at first, in the first year, the first thing that we tried, let's say, to translate was the Holy Quran. And I loved it because it was like an immediate opportunity to get to know the culture and the religion and the language all together, reading a book. Well, for me, I consider it as a book because I'm not a Muslim, so I miss the faith, let's say. But I found it like such a great opportunity to really dive into Islam and Arabic culture, religion, everything related to Arabic. So, as we were speaking about Quran, what does the Holy Book say about women? Because I know that there is a surah. You can also like explain what a surah is, and like a bit of let's say a background about the Holy Quran, how it's divided, and in order for also our listeners that maybe don't know about it to understand it a bit more.
Well, first of all, we don't have to think about Quran as just one book. Many people, like when you buy it, you can buy, like one single book. But if we are talking about how it's divided in different books, in several books. It's actually 30, and every book contains what you have said, what you have mentioned, the surah. And this surah, it's like a small text, we can say. Well, not small, not always small, because there are some surahs that can even last, chapters. And but it's only it's in general, like named with a title, and this is generally, the name given to the surah to explain what you are going to read in that surah. But it's not always stuck. So I have to say, like, for example, if we talk about the surah of women, you are not going to read only things about women. Okay, you can also have, like some bits of knowledge regarding history, regarding, like a particular episode that happened in the Islamic history, but even in the previous one, because well, Quran has not come all in one, but it was revealed to our prophet in like in several times, in different times, and each of this surah has different verses, and well, as I said, according to the text to the surah, there could be many verses, or there could be short verses. There's a surah that has only 3 verses, and there's another one, as I said, that takes different books. But talking about more in details about the Quran and what the Quran says, it says a lot about the role of women, and I would say that it's not even all in one. Like you have the surah of women, Surah An-Nisa, but you do not find exclusively all information you have to know about women in that surah. You find it, along the way in different surahs, in different verses, and I would say that it's sometimes it's very clear, and sometimes what is revealed about women could be slightly cryptical. Like if I think about in this surah, Surah An-Nisa, you find that it's revealed a lot about women. But for example, if we talk about how like people tend to subdivide their patrimony when they die, what is the income for every woman, you find different cases in the verses. It's explained like, if you have case 1, woman will take 1, 2, 3. If you have case 2, woman will take 1, 2, 3. But and so on. But there are so many other cases that are not mentioned in the Quran, and here I would say that the Quran has a link, like sort of continuing with what is the Islamic science, so basically the interpretation of what is written in the Quran, and like the part of Islamic science and law. So you see, for example, when we talk about Islamic law, the basis, what is simply called Sharia, so takes like the basis from the Quran, but like the Sharia has developed in a slightly different way, in a more, we can say, complete way, because many people were not able to like understand fully what is written in the Quran. So we can say that the law develops from the Quran, but it develops in a more clear and a more complete way, trying like to take all the cases, to mention all the cases that human being could face along their life. And again, talking about women, I would say that the Quran praises women so much. And for those who I would like to address, to those who believe that, and to those who say, to those who claim that Quran, like praises only men. No, that's not true. Yes, I can recognize that, like male figures are more, but if we talk about, like Western history and literature, we will always find that men are more, like a long history in the different centuries, men were those who were visible, like it's like, when you talk about Virginia Woolf, she wrote the essay when she spoke about Shakespeare, and what if he had a sister, So that's always it. Like men are always, in the front line, and women were always back. But it's a fact that men are mentioned more in the Quran, but this doesn't mean that they are more important than women. And I like the fact that the Quran, gives us many, many examples, many, many stories about how grand, how marvelous, how amazing these women have been. Their role as mothers, as daughters, as wives, as fighters, as, nurses, doctors. I like the fact that, you have stories that, underline the fact that women were not stuck in one role, not mother, not daughter, not sister, and that's, or wife, and that's all. No, they were much more than this. And they were educated. They they spoke with their own mouth, they spoke from their own mind, and some were helping the prophet, some were not just from the strategic point of view, so in war, some were helping him spreading Islam with all the prophet's sayings. And so the Quran it's a great example of how those stories, how those examples developed. And I think that in a way the fact that this book is eternal, is universal, it makes me feel like God is in a way speaking to women and saying, you were great in the past and you still are great with what you do, even with the smallest things that women do. They are not small. Like men could say, oh, okay, yeah, that woman it's working and raising kids, for example, but for God this is something great. Women have a special place, I would say, in the Islamic religion and culture. And women are even considered to be the key to heaven, which is something that I really appreciate being a woman, because it makes me feel like, let's be honest, living as a woman has always been, and this is, universally speaking, has always been much more difficult than being a man. But so I like the fact that God wants to tell us, okay, being a woman has been hard for you, but you are something so great. You are the key to heaven. You are the key to living in the afterlife with an amazing life, an endless life of pleasure and joy. And so I really appreciate this, which is something that sometimes is not done by men, and I'm talking again universally, regardless of the society. Men sometimes tend to forget how what is the great value of women. So I like the fact that it is underlined several times. And as I said, Quran it's a manual. So for us being a women, so as for men, there are many rules, there are many restrictions, there are tips, there are pieces of advice. And so I would say that the whole Quran came as a fully manual, and it helps women living in the right way, I would say, and helps men as well living in the right way, making sure that men recognize women's role and value, and making sure that they respect them. And I'm not talking about adults, I'm not talking about women, grown up women, I'm talking about also kids and young ladies.
So do you think that there is a, let's say, kind of something feminist in Islam?
And also, do you feel that there's some kind of idea related to gender equality?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, like, well, I would say that the Quran is so, and Islam in general is so feminist, and I wonder how people do not realize that. And in particular, I would, let's say, in brackets, blame, like Muslim women that do not realize how Islam gives them rights, gives them equality, gives them, like their own identity. So, it's of course Islam, and in general, when I talk about the Quran, I talk about Islam. It says, like, okay, you are a woman, so you have, like, particular features inside of you. I'm talking emotionally, from the point of view of your mindset. Like, even sometimes people say, like, women tend to be, like, more mature than the men. They grow up faster than the men. So the Quran says, okay, you are a woman, you have particular biological and mind and emotional and all you want features, and you are a man, you have particular features. Okay, but this is what you are, this is your identity, and I want to praise your identity. I want to give it value. So I would say, and I would say that they are like, they are put on the same level, okay, of importance, because of course we cannot say that men without women could do something, and vice versa. I mean, like, they are both important, they are equally important. The thing is that many people tend to confuse two things, I would say. What is like, when we talk about equality, what do you think? When we talk about equality, you believe that equality, that they are put on the same level, and that's okay. But the thing is that if we analyze the feminism from the Western point of view, means that they must do the same things, that they must have the same rights, that they must have the same identical consequences in their actions. So we can say that sometimes the Western feminism, okay, with the Western mindset, tends to confuse equality with something that is like similarity. Okay, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but like, the Islam, it's like equal in the sense that it's fair. Okay, there's justice between men and women. But Islam at the same time says you are not identical, because, as I said, you are a woman, you have like a different mindset, you are biologically speaking different, emotionally speaking you are different, and you are a man. So we cannot say that men and women are similar. Okay, they are not identical, they are not the same thing, because otherwise we would be we could have been created all men or all women. I don't know if you agree or not, but in the sense that it's like two different categories. You have like same rights, it's okay. You may have common prohibition, limitations, okay. You have the same punishments, you may have same maybe reward, but in the earthly life, you are a man and you are a woman. Okay, so I don't know if I'm clear. So you do not have to confuse them. Like, equal is something and identical is something else. And I believe that when the error, the mistake that occurs here is that Islam, that Muslim women want to like have an Islam that works with the Western mindset. I don't know if I'm clear, but really it can't happen. As I said, you have to have a particular key to analyze, and you cannot take, you know, like Western rules and apply them to the Islamic rules, because they are on two different levels. Okay, so that's it.
I wanted to ask you if you can like give us an example in the Quran of this like equality that you were talking about between men and women, and how men and women are not considered as identical, because as you said before, but they are considered as equal. So like an equal treatment for men and women. Like just an example to understand better.
Okay. Well, for example, I'm talking about let's bring, you know, like a very concrete case example in order to make everyone understand. There happens theft. Okay, someone has stolen something. Okay, I don't know, from a shop or anything, and you find the thief. Okay, well, according to the Islamic law, which, as I said, takes, you know, its roots from the Quran, this person should have their hand, sorry, cut, right? So here we find that there's equality regardless of the gender. You are a man, you should have your hand cut. You are a woman, you should have your hand cut. You have the common, equal, you know, justice. I don't care if you are a woman. Okay, maybe we could analyze what's behind the theft. I mean, like, okay, you stole because, for example, you have nothing to eat, so you steal because you're hungry. Okay, this is something else. You steal because you are greedy. That's another case. So you see, like, you find limitations, you find punishments that could be common. You know, when we talk about fornication, when we talk about adultery, they both have the same punishment. So it's not because men are more important or women are less important or vice versa. You see, they share, we could say, the common background, you know, according to Islamic law. But I would say that sometimes, you know, there could be differences in their lives, I don't know. For example, well, let me think. Like, if we talk about, for instance, in the hijab, okay, so the fact that women are should and, well, I would say after a certain age, they are asked and required to wear the hijab to cover fully their bodies. Okay, so we have said that we agree that women are biologically different from men, emotionally, and everything that I mentioned before. So women, for example, are required to cover their body, okay, and whereas men not, okay, not as women. Okay, you may say this is not equality, okay, but I would say that is in our you know, like, vision, this is right. Okay, you put them on the same level, and I would say, okay, let's for example talk about even why women are required to wear hijab, for example. Okay, there are many different reasons, but if you think about, I want to ask you something. Why in certain countries you find kids going to school with the uniform? Why do you think they have to wear a uniform?
In order to be all the same and like to erase the differences between them, I would say.
Or not to make the clothes dirty because of poor mothers and fathers that have to clean it afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the point. I mean, like, women are asked, one of the reasons why women are asked to wear hijab, it's because they should not be different from one another. Okay, I agree, of course, some people, some women wear it in a way, some others in another way, some people wear it with certain colors, others, like, go neutral, but the concept is the same. So let's think about, for example, a woman that is in good health. Okay, she will, like, put on her hijab, her everything, like, she will be fully covered and she will go out in the street or whatever. Okay, let's talk about another woman who is having, like, a cancer treatment. Okay, one of the cancer treatment, is hair loss, right? Okay, so this woman should go outside, and show people, like in Western countries, you see normally girls without hair going outside or maybe wearing wigs. But why do they wear wigs? Because they want to look, let's say, normal, like every other woman, with hair on her head. So it's the same thing. So according to our Islamic vision, there's a certain equality, between women who wear hijab, because it doesn't, give you the space to distinguish between rich women and poor women, between, like, healthy women and unhealthy women. So a woman that has, like, hair loss because of her cancer treatment will, like, put on the veil, and she will go outside, and people will not notice that. So she will not feel that embarrassed. So this is to underline just one thing, that Islam does not only give you, like, equality and, justice between men and women, but it gives even justice between women and women. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but that's one of the beautiful points of Islam, that it tries to treat us as we are all one, but like, we are characterized by, like, some points that, okay, they make us different, but at the same time they make us all human. So they make us deserve to be treated all in the same way. And well, sometimes there are differences, and I would say that this plays in favor of women, because as I said, for example, it was never mentioned that men are the key to paradise, to heaven. So this puts, women in a much more higher position, I would say. Or maybe when the Prophet was asked by one of his friends, one of his followers, he was asked who was more important, who was more valuable between his mother and his father. And like, the Prophet stated that definitely mothers are, like, the most important human being on earth that you could ever, find and love. So this doesn't mean that, like, men or fathers are not important, but, they are 1/3 of importance, compared to women. So I would say that, sometimes you can find that women are even, like, a grade higher than men. And this is what, astonishes me. This is what makes me wonder why women, want to force, Islam to be equal, when it is already just and equal.
Well, that's a good point, and thank you for the great explanation that you gave us. It was very thorough. And I wanted to ask you, Wiam, you said that you're now living in Egypt, and that your family is Egyptian. So can you tell us something more about the changes that have been in politics and also the policies referred to women in in current
In Egypt, you
times, yes, in Egypt, in current times, and if you want to go back to how what are the origins of feminism in the Islamic world?
yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, Egypt has, like a privileged place as for Islamic feminism because it is considered like the place of birth of Islamic feminism. So it grew in Egypt and it started little by little, to spread all over the other countries. I would say that it arrived, faster in the North African countries. So we're talking about Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and other places. It also arrived in the Middle Eastern part, but it did not develop nowadays as in the North African countries. It was like this concept of Islamic feminism grew during the awakening period. So we're talking about the 19th century, okay, in Egypt, and it was a time where the Egypt was under the English and for a certain period also French, dominion, and they were of course influenced by the Western culture, mindset, and all their concepts and their lifestyles. But sometimes people, when somebody conquers a country, in most of the times the country that is conquered absorbs all like the features of the dominant culture, and sometimes what happens is the opposite. Okay, so that's what I believe happened in Egypt. Of course there were like influences, and because like for example in Egypt not all women were wearing hijab at that time. If I think about, for example, the monarchy, I do not remember having princesses or queens wearing hijab. But that's because they were influenced by the English colonization. But in that time, there were some people. They were what we called ulama. So they were basically like scientists and very people passionate and very very interested in the Islamic law and science and this kind of topics and matters, and they were trying like to save Islam from all these influences. And they were saying like we cannot leave Islam to the influence of like the English and the French powers. So we want to preserve it, and we want it to be pure, because Islam is part of our identity. It's part of great part of our history in Egypt. So they basically started saving like Quran. They started to develop it in a different way. There were classes to teach students how the real Islam was. And when I talk about the real Islam, I'm not talking about the extreme Islam that is developed by like extreme terrorist groups such as ISIS and this kind of things, because Islam has never been extreme, never. So when we talk about the real Islam, we talk about the purity of Islam, the beautiful Islam, like the equal Islam, the just and the right Islam. And during this period, of course, many women that, because of the culture, had no chance to like to scream out loud and to say we are here, started to take this awakening period as the right occasion to take their rights back. and I would say also to take their room in the society back, because they at first they were women who were only mothers and sisters or even daughters. Okay, of course they went to school, and so I'm not talking about, you know, like an ignorant society. They went to school, and they were educated. Some were even well and highly educated, but the destiny was, I would say, one, you know, becoming a mother, and so on, having daughters or wives, and these kind of things. But women, and you know, you have many important, you know, like women in the Islamic in the Islamic feminism history, that you know, like Huda Sha'rawi, for example. She was one of, you know, the best figures, the iconic figure of Islamic Egyptian Islamic feminism. And you know, like they just wanted their space, their room in society. They wanted the men to hear their voices. They wanted to men, you know, like to recognize their role. And as I said, that is not just being a mother or a sister or a daughter or even a wife, but was like, okay, we are women, we are part of the society, we are vital to society, to the development of society, to the development of culture and of history, just as men. So that's what that was basically the period. And of course, after that, thanks to literature, thanks to I am talking about, of course, years and years after, but with the media, so when with television, with the, you know, like the printing press, people started to, women, and I would say that there were also feminist men, okay, that started, you know, to talk about and to ask to the Egyptian society where the women rights are. We want them. Okay, we really expect the Egyptian society to, you know, like have a turning point and to say, okay, these are your rights, this is your space, this is your life, this is your identity. And so there were also many laws in favor to women, and they were trying to suit women lives. Like, for example, if I think about the 50s in Egypt, okay, after the revolution, I'm talking about, you know, like starting from 1955, I would say that you know, with the first president, with the second actually president of Egypt, because he was Abdel Nasser was the second one in Egypt, if we talk about, you know, like a republic and a democracy. But he sometimes is recognized as the first real president, because the previous one was in power just for like 9 months or nearly 1 year, so he is not really recognized. But starting from 55, after the falling of monarchy, there were some laws in favor to women. So women were, for example, allowed to work. Okay, so they were not just teachers, but they worked, for example, also in factories. They started to work for the little and small companies that were in Egypt at that time. And for example, there were laws stating what was the amount of hours fixed for women. They built, for example, kindergarten for women who had children, in order to give them the possibility to work, and at the same time, you know, like to be sure that their kids were, you know, like secure and having, you know, a good time with at kindergarten, or even having education at kindergarten. So there were different laws in favor to women. And, you know, like with you know, different presidents, I would say that feminism had its up and down moments. Because, for example, with the president that came after Sadat, you know, I would say that the curve of Islamic feminism went down. But I would say that with the last and actual president, women have conquered an amazing space, politically, socially, and culturally speaking. And if we talk about the actual parliament in Egypt, I recognize, of course, it's a dictatorship, but it has its own parliament. And in parliament, like the percentage of women are now nearly 15%. And you may say, us as even Italian would say, oh, this is not much. But if you think about all the previous presidents, they were nearly like 2.8, sometimes 3.1%. And so, like you have, of course, an impressing, increasing in the amount of women that are in parliament. And this is something that should not be underestimated.
Yeah, thank you very much for your bright overview of the history of Egyptian feminism. I believe that once again, it's such a part of the culture of the country that it's very important to be known better, definitely. And this leads me to the conclusion of this episode. From my side, I just would like to remind everybody that whenever you have a doubt or you want to know more about something, some culture, also just to learn Arabic language, just go make your research, ask people like Weam that can help you, that can guide you through it. And so, girls, I just wanted to ask you if you would like to say one last thing before we say goodbye. Who wants to start?
Shall I start?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I would recommend people, and I'm talking especially about youngsters, teenagers, because they and we are the future. To really put knowledge in first place, because without knowledge, we are like blind in the dark, and knowledge helps us not falling into judgments. And it helps us also coexisting and respecting each others and living in peace. I really say that people who do not read, people who do not ask, who do not think, who do not have any doubts, are dead people to me, because we have seen, even as students, we all have studied philosophy, and philosophy is made of people who just sat there and thought about life, why we are here, what we are going to do, what we are going to do after we die. So I would say that we have the responsibility to build a better world, but we cannot do this, like just staying in the ignorance and staying in darkness. So I would recommend everyone to, to read more, to ask more, because, without it, we are not going to build a better world. And I would say this, I said this to teenagers that are Muslim and non-Muslims, because for Muslims have the responsibility, the huge responsibility, I'd say, to to develop and to convey the right message to those who are non-Muslims, so to those who do not know anything about Islam. And of course, the non-Muslims have the responsibility to find out, to read, and to ask more. But I would say that Islam, when it began developing, with with the early sayings and the actions of the Prophet, Islam developed hugely, mainly because of what the Prophet did, how he behaved to people, and how he spoke to people. So he was a great example of what actually Islam is. So we as Muslims have the responsibility to be a good example. So when I see extremists, claiming that what they do is Islam, I feel, deeply ashamed, because we convey the completely wrong message. We are not like that. We are not extremists. We are not ignorant. We are not close-minded. Islam is the complete opposite. So again, I say that as Muslims, we have the responsibility, and we have a task to fulfill, which is to be good Muslims. And I would say that through our actions, we can we can really make the difference. We can make non-Muslims understand that Islam is not putting women in second place, but on the contrary, sometimes women are put really in the first place. And if there was even something higher than the first place, I would say that women sometimes are put there. So I would just recommend reading and asking questions, and not stay ignorant. That's all.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what I was about to say too. I can speak from the part of non-Muslim, and I mean, feel free and not afraid to ask if you don't know something, because it's much better to just ask and get knowledge from someone that is part of that culture, that religion, or whatever it is, and really get to know something that you didn't before create prejudice in your mind. And probably most of the times you're going to find not like a wall, but a person that is going to be very open and also generally maybe surprised and welcoming towards you, because you are striving to understand the others. So it's absolutely essential, this part of really searching for information before creating in your mind things that are not true, basically. So thank you very much once again, Weam, for being with us. It was an extremely interesting conversation today. I really loved it.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you asked me for this interview, because, as I said, I believe that many people need this. And sometimes people are just lazy. They do not want to catch the book and open it and stay there reading, pages and chapters of something. And sometimes a good genuine chat is it's what can make the difference, and can make you look at things in a very different way, from a different point of view. So thanks, because I think that this could help people seeing Islam and the role of women in a positive way, and not in a negative way, as many people and organizations and even the media are trying to show us. So thanks again. It was a pleasure and an honor for me. Thank you.
We are going to conclude now, and just to our listeners, see you next time. Bye.